give you an example, like 2014, UK gin market was valued at 750 million pounds.
What?
By 2018, that had become a 3 billion pound market with 750 odd gin distilleries there. That is exactly where we said that, listen, we're going to create something that is accessible. It's not going to be like, 20,000 rupees a bottle, but it's going to be just as good, if not better, than what is currently imported into the country. And that's where greater than the name came about as well, that it is greater than any other gin out there in the market. The largest selling premium gin in the country was Bombay Sapphire. 2021, we overtook Bombay Sapphire. The reason there's not much great wine coming out of India is geographically it's limited. Wine grapes typically grow best in 33 to 55 degrees north. So, from your latitudes, and 33 to 55 degrees south. China, the entire country falls into that band. There is a massive demand for wine in China, like nothing else. China is right now the largest red wine consumer in the world, and soon to be the largest red wine producer in the world.
Yo, what is up my friends? आज दोस्तकास्ट के एपिसोड में I've got आनंद वर्मानी who runs Nao Spirits, जिसके अंदर मशहूर देश की सबसे प्रसिद्ध जिन ग्रेटर दैन और हापुसा जिन जो कि एक एक्लेक्टिक जिन है, दोनों आती हैं. Anand and I talked about all things history of gin in India, history of wine across the world, what it takes to build an alcohol brand in this country, what it takes to become number one, and how the new set of alcohol entrepreneurs in the country are kind, cooperative, and helping each other build potentially the future of what India drinks. बहुत ही बढ़िया कॉन्वर्सेशन थी, मेरे को बहुत मजे आया. We both went to Boston at some point, तो वो वाला कनेक्शन था. पर उसके beyond also, I think if you enjoy alcohol, or even if you're curious about what the future of entrepreneurship in this industry looks like, this is a conversation for you. The episode with Anand Virmani begins in 3, 2, 1. So, this is the common point I wanted to discuss. So, you went to Babson, I went to BU.
Oh, अच्छा.
9 years apart though. 9 years apart, ठीक है? तो जब मैंने LinkedIn पढ़ा, and I was like, bro, अच्छा. Because Babson के बाद Greater Boston area के अंदर थोड़ी बहुत internship काम करने के बाद with the
कुछ नहीं किया मैंने वहाँ पे.
तो वहाँ पे अरे LinkedIn पे एक वो था ना Pride
blankets, वो तो मतलब that was part of our college itself.
अच्छा.
So within college, that was like one great thing about Babson was we had this thing called FME, Foundational Management Experience.
Okay.
Where they would get you to actually raise money from a bank. So Bank of America is that tie-up tha. Raise money from a bank, start a business, run a business for the entire school year or like half the school year, and manage sales, accounts, operations, marketing, everything. So you ran a physical business for a full year. 6 months of prep, 6 months of running it.
Did you keep the profits?
We donated the profits.
Achha, haan.
So all the businesses were supposed to donate the profits if they made profits.
I'm not sure if entrepreneurship degrees wale job schools hain wo karte hain, because they just make you do business case studies. But it's very interesting that you actually ran an entire business.
It was great, and this was the very first year. So I was really very thankful for it personally as well, because in my mind I was gonna get into finance and maybe I don't know, but maybe investment banking or something like that. But actually having spent that 6 months running the finance for that company, I realized two things. One, that I loved it, I enjoyed it. But second, that I did not want to do that for the rest of my life.
Did not want to do finance? Did not want to run a business?
Finance.
Okay.
Operations I loved. That's the first time I actually saw the operation side of things, and I was like, ये तो बहुत सही है.
तो operations वाली चीज के अंदर मतलब उसके हम parallel अभी draw नहीं करते alcohol के अंदर, but like so you're a freshman, 18 years old, right? At that
freshman, point? Yeah, 17, just turning 18.
17, 18, right? उस time पे, and so you have this opportunity. What was the degree in entrepreneurship?
No, so actually I went to Babson while Babson is number one in entrepreneurship and everything. I was probably the only kid there who was there for the finance program. They had a really good investment banking program, and yeah, मैं तो उसके लिए गया था, and turned into economics with a side of marketing eventually.
And so before Babson, how, I mean, उस टाइम पे तो इंडिया के अंदर बाहर अप्लाई करने वाला फ्रेमवर्क और कम होता होगा, लाइक मेरे टाइम पे और बढ़ गया था और अब तो बहुत ज़्यादा इजी हो गया.
Correct.
लेकिन उस टाइम पे like who propelled you to decide to go abroad? Did your parents convince you? Did you figure out like this is the path for me?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I didn't really know enough. We had happened to spend 2 years in the US during my 8th and 9th. Because my dad was working at American Express. He went there for a couple of years, and then we came back.
So you studied in an American school for 2 years?
2 years.
Dude, what was that like?
Crazy, yeah. It was quite a shock to the system because here basically I left in 7th grade, and in 7th grade तो हम लोग लल्लू थे.
CBSE normal?
कुछ normal CBSE. So math strong थी, but life skills was zero. Things like I mean, I would tuck in my shirt, right? I would button up till here and
tel laga ke baal aise
correct, not tel laga ke, but yeah, this is very
clear. Lagana is a very Indian thing to do.
Correct. And then getting there and proudly proclaiming that Backstreet Boys is my favorite band. Shit, I was calling for it, man. People like really like took me apart there. So it wasn't the best 2 years, but learned a lot. And then came back and here again, here was fun. India was great.
तो फॉरेन रिटर्न बच्चा है, एक थोड़ा स्वैग भी है क्या ब्रो? अमेरिका में तो ऐसे होता है यार. मेरे लास्ट स्कूल में ना लोग यूनिफॉर्म नहीं पहनते थे.
Pants were lower than everyone else, and it was fun. So then basically when 12th was nearing to an end, or I think it was in the 12th basically, Dad said, listen, we have a green card, so it makes sense for you to go study there. Plus, considering how I wasn't a bad student, but I wasn't like I wasn't going to get like 94% in the board. So they were like, listen, you're not going to get into like SRCC or Stephens or whatever else, so what's the scene? So we were like, okay, we'll use the green card and go to a university in the US. But that also we had no idea. I mean, like, again, there was no real guidance counselor at that point to say, acha, you can go to Brown University or you can go to, this. There was nothing. So literally, Dad was like, acha, SAT karna hai. He knew SAT karna hai, and uske baad TOEFL hona hai, and then bas we'll apply to Harvard, MIT, and NYU. I was like, okay. Literally standing in line for the SAT test, there was someone who was handing out flyers for college counseling, saying, listen, if you want college counseling, reach out to this person. And we're like,
where was this? India?
In Delhi. So it's like, great, sounds like a good number. Called up the person, didn't realize I was the first ever student that guy would have, but it was great. I mean, we're still friends with him, and he's now helping 100 kids a year. But back then, I was the first one.
That's crazy.
So through that, then heard of colleges I'd never heard of, right? Babson, even there was Bentley, there was Claremont McKenna, there was NYU was my dream school, and parents were constantly like, why are we not trying for Harvard? I was like, listen, it's not going to happen. So yeah, and Babson was a fantastic experience, man.
So Babson, मेरे को पता है, BU is like right in the city, Commonwealth Avenue.
Babson is nowhere near the city.
है ना? तो I know कि Babson had its own scene and whatever. At that point, like, did you consider alcohol as a career at all? What was the bar scene like? Frats का scene चल रहा था वहाँ पे.
So were we drinking good alcohol in Babson in college?
Jungle juice.
No. Yeah, exactly. If that Pabst Blue Ribbon or was it Bush Light? Bush Light was the 50 cents a can.
The worst thing is the PBR crushing and then Pico se.
Yeah, correct. So no, at that stage, did I think of gin and all that? No, but what happened was after the first year when I said, listen, finance nahi karna, but I have 3 more years of college. What am I doing? Right? What direction am I taking? So by the end of the second year, I realized that, hey, maybe marketing and strategy and that angle maybe works really well. And specifically, there was a strategy professor of ours who, well, actually was a substitute strategy professor of ours because our regular one was out of this thing. But he came in and did a case study with us on wine. So new world versus old world wine. What are the differences? What are the, what's the approach to marketing? What's the approach to branding that's been taken by both of them?
Only in the US at that point, or
No,
like
around the world.
globally,
So they were looking at new world wines being okay. California, Chile, Argentina, Australia, versus old world wines being France, Italy, Spain, Germany for that matter. So I found that really interesting, and I said, listen, this is great, and I immediately related to the wine branding side of things. I said, this is amazing, right? You take the label off that thing, and a $4,000 bottle of wine becomes a less than a $4 bottle of wine.
Just by taking off the label.
Yeah, because once you can't identify it, it's not like a car, right? If you look at the car and let's say you take the logo off the Mercedes
Right.
thing, you step in, you drive it, or you look at it, you look at the styling of it, you will know what it is, and you will know what price to pay for it. But you take the label off of this thing, you don't know what to pay for it anymore, and you cannot take it to the trial room, right? It's not like with clothes that you try it on and you're like, all right, this is still comfortable, I don't care if it's unbranded. You cannot do that. You have to
whatever
buy
happens to
a bottle.
expertise then?
Sorry?
जो expertise होती है testers की कि मैंने taste करके बता दिया ये इस तरह की wine है.
See, this is why you rely a lot on experts. You rely a lot on people telling you that, listen, this is worth it. You can, of course, you can make a wine here in Nashik makes nice wines, but let's say you make a wine in Nashik and you price it for 20,000 rupees.
No one's gonna buy it.
No one's gonna buy it, right? Why is that? Because people have told you that, listen, Nashik wines, sure, they're good. They can be good. Not all of them, but they can be good. But that kind of pedigree, that kind of, quality maybe does not exist as yet as it would in maybe Chateau Lafite, where the pedigree is there. That there's the reason why people are going in and buying that. So that piece I really enjoyed, that the malleability of the brand, I just really like it. It struck a chord. So that's where I said, okay, this could be interesting to pursue, and spend some time with that professor, outside of class as well, and
Office
said, listen,
hours?
how can I? Yeah, office hours. Yeah, well done. I'd never gone to any other office hours, right? Those are the only office hours I went to, and I really enjoyed it. And we would talk wine, and it turned out, his family had vineyards in Spain, and he had a lot of experience there. I was like, okay, great. One thing led to another, and I ended up going and spending 6 months as a study abroad from the study abroad in New Zealand, and doing a master's thesis while doing undergrad, but doing a master's thesis at University of Auckland with a wine professor there.
That's insane. So एक छोटा सा interest, this adjunct professor comes in and tells you, like, listen, this is the strategy of marketing wines across the world, and you just go all in from this finance, marketing, tricky, I'm not sure what to do.
Something just clicked. It happened. It was,
and you were drinking wines at this point. Were you interested in drinking wines, or were you just fascinated with the bottling of it? Or
that's when I started looking at wine. That's when I started like thinking of wine as something serious, right? At that point, I knew nothing about drinking. Yeah, I mean, like first year of college, I was 25 days into college when it was my 18th birthday, and we got plastered pretty much, and drank whatever came out, Bacardi Orange, and
it's really
whatever.
bad. Yeah, those college liquor shops, कुछ भी पीते हैं.
Exactly. Whatever happened, whatever came our way, we drank. So it was. And that's when this interest started. I said, okay, let's start looking at it, and eventually that grew into, trying to get a job in the wine industry. No one would give me a job straight out of college. I ended up working at Deloitte for a year, trying to look for jobs in wine, and again that was just not happening until finally someone decided to give me a chance with whiskey. And literally in that interview, I remember one of the first things they asked was, so do you like whiskey? And I said, no. I said, shit, this thing's over, man.
Still give you a job though.
Correct. They gave me a job somehow. 10 months later, but yeah. Kafi.
And I have a question about wines. So, अगर एक wine की bottle पे, let's just say I do a serif font, right? उसको italicize कर दूँ, उसमें 2016 लिख दूँ. Can graphic design of the label make a wine more costly?
Of course it can, but making it costly is there's nothing great about, or there's nothing great about making it costly. So what? Will someone still want to buy
label हटा लो तो फिर
No, but will someone still want to buy it, right? Of course, at the end of the day, the proof is still in the wine, the proof is still in the liquid, right? The label is a way to attract you. My feeling on this has always been that there's all kinds of labels, right? You walk into a wine store in most parts of the world, there are 500 labels that you're looking at. How do you decide? Sure, you'll decide, okay, I want a red wine. Okay, you've eliminated half. But you've still got 250 labels looking at you. Now what? How do you decide? Right? So, what I've always believed is that you will immediately get pulled to the labels that stand out to you. Right? A boring looking label you may not even pick up. Right? But unless that's what you think is good wine. You think good wine means, serious looking label. So then that's what you will pick up. Right? But if it calls to you, so for example, I would go pick up, I maybe look at 2 or 3 of them, the labels that I like. And the reason I will give into that, right? Initially, I used to be like, no, I'm not going to give into this temptation of going and picking up labels I like, because I feel I'm being trapped. Right? This whole thing, koi graphic designer hai, wo baitha hai, and so you feel like, that's the thing. But then you also start to realize that the winemaker has a big say in what the label looks like. So potentially, this is my theory. Yeah, there's nothing scientific about it. But potentially, if your taste, matches with the label, then potentially the wine also will follow, because the winemaker would have had approved this and approved the wine itself. So potentially the person behind the wine and behind the label, you'll see eye to eye with them. That more or less works, right? It's never like, and you can see through the labels that are too much, right? And you're like, no, this is
I look at a maker's mark and I'm like, I don't want to drink this. American कारीगर को देख के, and that's just my. हर बार मैं जाता हूँ, I can always see a maker's mark and I'm like, can I smell the bourbon? It's like, हाँ ठीक है. No, something else. It's so weird, right? Like how your personal preference automatically has to fit two things. One, the label, and also the drink, right?
Yeah.
But then, so coming back to the fact that you're doing all of this educational immersion in understanding wines, इसमें alchemy कहाँ है? इसमें liquids की distillation और वो सब processes जानना कहाँ है? अभी तो हम बाहर से देख रहे हैं ना, right? कि marketing कैसे होती है?
Correct.
So when do you actually get into, like, say, a plant and figure out, like, what are the ingredients?
When did we?
Yeah.
So after working at so the whiskey job was William Grant and Sons. That was great because I was doing marketing and everything, and as part of that, we were taken to Scotland. I was taken to Scotland. I was shown around the distillery. First time I entered a distillery. Shown around the cooperages, the warehouses, etc., where these casks
in Scotland itself.
In Scotland, yeah. So that was great, right? So from a theoretical knowledge of understanding distillation, of understanding maturation, of understanding production itself, right? Seeing a bottling line for the first time was fantastic. But again, that was also from almost like an outsider's view. Yeah, take pictures and everything, and that's it. Now get out.
Yeah. You're not getting your hands dirty at this point.
We're not getting our hands dirty at that point. So that was really interesting. One of the brands that I was representing, which is done by William Grant, is Hendrix. So got to see the gin distillery and everything, and got to meet the distiller, and that was fantastic. After about 3 years of being in the whiskey space, I said, listen, I now want to pursue my wine passion. So I went, dropped the job, went and did my Masters of Science in wine and spirits business in Burgundy, France. So that was brilliant again, because that was a 1.5 year long program, solid immersion into wine and the wine category around the world. get into, speak to, vineyard owners and winemakers and everything, speaking to wine buyers and everything. And came back, could not make sense of working in the wine industry in India.
I have a small question.
Sure, go for it.
At this point, ऐसा हो रहा है कि it's not like you're diversifying and broadening your scope and doing, कि चलो कुछ tangible market का feasible business करता हूँ. Instead, you're going nerdier and nerdier and nerdier and geekier into the world of spirits.
Yeah.
The world around you at this point, is it pro Anand? Is it anti Anand as you're going, all into? क्योंकि अभी अब तो जैसे, once you launch greater than, अब 36 तरह की जिन आ गई मार्केट में, अब तो जैसे लोग बोल रहे हैं कि this is a great career to be in, right? At that point, like, are people maybe ridiculing you, maybe like questioning you about like why are you obsessed with spirits?
I think there's definitely a question कि यार मतलब MBA क्यों नहीं करने का तू? What is this Masters of Science? Masters कर रहा है,
हाँ.
but you're not doing an MBA. You're doing Masters of Science in wine and spirits.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Who goes to Burgundy, France? What happened to the Harvard dream? That kind of a thing. And I was like, listen, I've tasted the the spirits business. I've really enjoyed it. I think there is potential for wine, and that's what I want to be doing. And at the end of the day, I'm paying for it. I've saved up money or I've taken a loan or whatever, and I'm paying for it. So, I can. And, I do want to complete my studies, and, do the master's bhi kar liya, undergrad bhi kar liya. And I'd rather, instead of doing a generic MBA, which everyone has, I'd rather do one which interests me and which will actually fuel whatever passion I have. And if I find one, then, great, let's do that. So I don't think anyone was anti or for or whatever. It was well, maybe people were for. I think my wife Aparajita really supported that decision. So I was already married at this point, and I said, listen, I'm gonna go and study for a year in France. And she's like, yeah, sure, go for it.
And who were your peers in France at this point? Like कौन किस तरह के लोग आए थे बर्गंडी में काम सीखने के लिए?
काफी interesting लोग थे. So there were 20 people in our class. 10 of them were from China. Like wondering China में.
अरे यार, I went to a Scottish Scotland के अंदर ही वो tasting के अंदर 80% लोग Chinese ही थे वहाँ पे भी. I don't know why. Like casinos and whiskey makes no sense.
But no whiskey. Big time consumers, yeah. And the other thing that we realized was more than half of them were being paid for or subsidized by the Chinese government
to
learn the business of wine, because they're just like, they just want to take over basically. And that kind of blew me away, because I was like, yeah, here I've struggled and figured out student loans and everything, and there your government is sending you. That's crazy. That's mad. But there is a massive demand for wine in China, like nothing else. China is right now the largest red wine consumer in the world, and soon to be the largest red wine producer in the world, by the way.
Are they shipping it out to the world? I haven't tasted Chinese red wine.
You don't, yeah, they pretty much drink it themselves, but they're going to be the next big superpower when it comes to wine.
Really?
Because, okay, the thing with wine, and the reason there's not much great wine coming out of India is geographically it's limited, right? Wine grapes typically grow best in 33 to 55 degrees north. So, from your latitudes, and 33 to 55 degrees south. So, your France, your Italy, your northern Spain, southern Germany, California, and in the south, South Australia, South Africa, Chile, Argentina, they all fall into this band. China, the entire country falls into that band all across. So they can grow grapes anywhere. And in India, we struggle with it, right? We don't have the right climate.
We just have Nashik.
Even there, it's a makeshift thing that we're doing. We're growing in the opposite season. So we're growing in the winter season, whereas you're supposed to be growing in the summer season.
Right.
But in summer it's too hot. So the grapes grow, but then we cut them and we waste them.
Yeah. So in Burgundy, you've got some Chinese classmates, and who are the other, or बाकी सारे peers कौन है?
So the others there were 2 Italians. There was one person from the US. There was who else was there? There was.
और ये enthusiasts थे जिनको सिर्फ सीखने के लिए सीखना था या like were they all trying to build businesses like you? Like, I mean,
No one was. I don't know if people were trying to build businesses. Everyone was trying to get employed in the wine field. There was one guy who was Adam, who became one of my better friends, and he was the oldest of us. So whereas all of us were on average about 24, 25, 26 year olds, he was 35,
hmm.
and he'd worked at what's that petroleum, the Russian petroleum company in London, Gazprom, something like that. In London, he was working with this Russian petroleum company, made lots and lots and lots and lots of money, and he was just fed up with it, and he kind of gave all of that up and said, "मैं जाके wine पढ़ रहा हूँ."
Change the liquid.
Change the basically change the liquid. So yeah, he was like the uncle of ours, kind of like living in a nice apartment. The rest of us are in like student accommodation. So we used to go to his house with, for like wine tastings and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
it was great.
So you came back and then you joined Perch.
Joined Remy Cointreau.
Okay, first Remy Cointreau.
Which was, again, comfort zone for me because spirits kar rakha pehle, but it was, closer to the wine thing because now cognac is grape. So, okay, sure, making our way there. But that itch to do something was always there in the wine industry. The push that came was actually that Remy Cointreau shut down in India. So after about a year,
I'm going to be a complete layman. Cointreau वही है जो tequila के अंदर use करते हैं as a mixer.
Margarita बनाने के लिए.
Margarita बनाने के लिए ना.
Cointreau is that orange liqueur.
Yes.
Well done. Not much of a layman.
नहीं, क्योंकि I remember my first cocktail, I bought this small like $36 personal mixology kit off Amazon when I was trying to be cool.
Cointreau.
In third year of college. तो उस टाइम पे मैं वो लेके आता था एक पेट्रॉन, फिर एक कॉन्ट्रू, फिर एक चीज और लेता था, मैं उसका नाम भूल गया, 3-4 चीजों से बनती है वो, and then I would just solve the class. But yeah, that's my first cocktail anyway.
Yeah, so left, well, got laid off, not left, laid off. 15 of us got laid off, and was kind of fiddling around, figuring out what to do next. And a friend of mine, Vaibhav, who ran PCO, if you've been to PCO.
I was at PCO 4 nights ago.
Correct. So the guy who originally started PCO, he came up to me and said, "Listen, I'm done with that. I'm starting off a wine and coffee bar. You know your wine. You want to come do this with me?" Yeah. And it wasn't even like thinking about it. I was like, great, yeah, let's do it. So started that, this place called Perch.
Perch के बारे में बहुत सारी मेरे को बातें करनी है, मैं थोड़ा सा रोक के मतलब वो कहना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि ना I remember, so I live in Faridabad and I would go to Khan Market as like this place to be, right?
Correct.
So I wasn't sure where to go initially, like Blue Tokai wasn't around, and I figured that वो अच्छा सा aesthetically लिखा हुआ board होता था Perch का with the grapevine hang कर रही होती है नीचे. And I went there and I felt bougie. It's like, this is a good place to be at. And I was just getting into cold brew, like, 2017, 18 ke uske aaspaas. And I started going there frequently. Now I go there for all kinds of things. Meetings, dates, logo se milna, hang out karna. And now I feel like, I'm a regular here. Aise jo akkad hoti hai na ki,
these guys know me.
You want to go to Perch? Is tarah se. But I am surprised that it still remains a Khan Market giant. While several others have closed down, don't get the same footfall.
Sure.
So, you were also doing marketing for them, not just like, helping them with the wine consulting. What did you do right that it's still like the...
Honestly, I don't know, right? That was my first time doing it. So it wasn't like I have a reference point of other businesses. We were just telling the story from a personal standpoint. So we didn't have an agency, for example, right? Most bars, restaurants, etc. that start off have an agency, and that agency will come in, they will take certain kinds of shots, they will take certain kinds of snippets, and they will talk about it in a certain kind of way. And we just didn't have that. So it was a more personal approach to it.
Word of mouth, khud ja ke bolna ki Perch.
Correct, exactly. So that's what we relied on. We didn't do any advertising, we didn't do any of that, nothing. So even day one when people started walking, we were like, where did you hear about us from?
So why choose Khan Market over, say, Aurobindo or Mehroli or Chanakyapuri, Malcha?
This was all Weber, right? It was his thing to say, yahan karenge, aise karenge, and everything. That's his expertise. Why we did Khan Market was because we wanted a space where people are already walking around. So it's a market where people are already walking around. They're doing some shopping, they're doing other things, and they'd like to come in and sit for a while. So it was a perch, and which is why, so it's not a sit. We never had cushions like this. We never had sofas like this where you can sink into it and spend the whole afternoon there. The idea was you come in, you spend maybe 45 minutes there, an hour there, which is why, not the most comfortable seating.
I was going to say, wooden chairs all around.
Wooden chairs all around, not the most comfortable seating. But it's for your quick in and out, right? You want a little break from the sun, you want a little this thing, you come in, you have a quick glass of wine or, the coffee sangria, something that we did there.
I had it on a date recently. Someone I went out with, she's like, I've been recommended the coffee sangria. And I really enjoyed it. It sobered me up.
Correct, exactly. So we were able to do those kind of things which hadn't been done, and just did it because ठीक है हमारे को अच्छा लगा. So even Vietnamese coffee, for example, it just भाग रहे मेरे से. So even Vietnamese,
sorry about that.
No, सही. So even that's fine. Vietnamese coffee as well, for example, was something that we introduced there. And it wasn't like it was available there. We had to we had friends in Vietnam who would buy it, ship it to us, and we'd use it here. So, agar wo kabhi waste hoti ya someone would drop it, we would feel really bad about it because we're like, yaar, kahan se aa rahi hai? Yeah, we were, and for me, honestly, coffee was new. I was never, so, Web was more into the whole coffee scene, and for me, it was like, I didn't even drink coffee. No, I still don't. Not like I need my coffee every day, nothing. So for us, we had two objectives there. One was to simplify wine. Take that whole tension around, ordering wine and everything.
It really helps when the menu has things saying, ये इस तरह की wine है, ये इस region से है. Fruity, crispy, bitter.
Correct.
Makes my life easier because even if I don't have the most trained palate, I know what fruity tastes like. So I can make a decision. And then the waiter always, the staff always helps me out.
So that's the thing. It's, up till then you would get a book, right? You go to any restaurant and you ask for the wine list, they will give you a book. You're like, where the hell do I start, right? And then you have to know by region or by grape, and you don't know what a Shiraz is supposed to taste like. You don't know what a Sauvignon Blanc is supposed to taste like. So how do you really know? So which is why we said, listen, let's break it down. Firstly, we're not going to have more than 30 wines on the menu, right?
Everything. What's the standard? Far more?
Yeah, hundreds. Typically hundreds.
एक menu पे एक जगह पे 100 wine बिकती हैं.
आराम से.
That's news to me.
आराम से. And then for us, it was also, you don't have to buy the whole bottle. You can buy half the bottle. So half carafe. So a half bottle आप खरीदो. The rest we'll put it in our specials wine by the glass. Right. So if someone walks in, we know, like, here, try this wine by the glass.
Otherwise, it's a pretty expensive affair to get a wine because you're far more likely to get like a small 580 rupees whiskey ka 30 ml, like some nice whiskey, but like a 3,200 rupees for an entire bottle. You're like, I'm not sure if I want to spend that much money drinking. Not everyone does, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you buy yourself, or even if you're two people, you might have a glass of wine, you might have a glass and a half, you might have two. You don't have to finish the whole bottle.
Yeah.
Right? That was the accessibility we wanted to create for wine. Whereas for coffee, we wanted to take it the other way. We were like, everyone loves instant coffee, right? Everyone does the, if they're feeling fancy, they'll do a David off, right? And
so bad.
Whatever it is. Again, so the idea was with coffee is to elevate the experience, right? So get people more bougie about coffee, without being bougie, right? So we introduced the AeroPress, we introduced the pour over, we talked to people about manual brewing versus machine brewing, got geeky about the roasts, where's the coffee coming from, what level of roast is it, so we used to do a lot of coffee workshops in the beginning as well, which was a lot of fun, and we were trying to turn the narrative for these two beverages, which are, fairly common, but people are still not interacting with it know,
It's
in
largely
the way.
inaccessible, or you approach them at the lowest common denominator. कि
Correct.
मतलब वाइन ले रहे हैं तो सुलर ले रहे हैं, कॉफी ले रहे हैं तो डेविड ऑफ नेस्कैफे ले रहे हैं, उसके ऊपर like the taste is unavailable to me. I don't know how to access it. I don't have
And
education in
that was the time that Blue Tuka had also just started in Saidullah Jam.
हाँ.
So coffee was, you know, the good coffee, what we call, was just about picking up. So I feel like Perch also did its little bit to contribute to that.
So more on Perch. 2015 to 2016 is when you were working there.
2015 to 2016, yeah. 2014 actually. 2014 I think we started.
उन 2 सालों के अंदर what specifically did you notice about the clientele, number one, and what changes did you bring? And then that your friend Vaibhav got you on board. So what were you doing on a daily basis there?
On the floor, yeah. So matlab, taking orders, clearing tables,
Acha.
recommend, हाँ, full on.
You're just doing operations, like
operations,
just,
yeah. And beach mein, when there's a lull, you know, when there's enough people doing, you know, whatever their work, I'll be looking for like a picture opportunity. I'll be looking at what to post about next. If someone wants a specific wine recommendation, I'll show up. I'll be like, हाँ बताओ.
So what would you post about? Like when you were doing the Instagram strategy, were you thinking about ki, how do I make this like a third culture kind of place? Ki kaam bhi karo, chill bhi karo. Was there like something in mind?
We never promoted it as a place where you can come sit and spend your afternoon and work. Right? वो बहुत सारी जगहें थी ऐसे. For us, it was more about you come, you immerse yourself in the drink, in the food a little bit as well, and that's it. Then you leave.
It's one of the only places I drink and work.
Sure. I mean,
and I'm saying that as it's a rarity. आप कहीं नहीं कर सकते.
Correct. Sure. And it turned into that, right? It was because music is low. It's not never like, you know, crazy. And even when if it is crazy on like a Saturday night or something, it's not going to be like, you know, blaring. So that was the whole idea as well. And that's why I guess it turned into a place where you could, you know, have dates because you can actually like speak to each other as opposed to shouting at each other.
Yeah, man. I've been to several places across Delhi where like they market themselves as bars or lounges, but the music is glaringly loud. फिर आप बात ही नहीं कर सकते. फिर just it defaults to standard shot taking behavior or just speaking loudly into someone's ear and barely getting through. I really think ये छोटी-छोटी चीजें matter करती. That's why like some places sustain and some places die. Some places in the same market have had glamorous openings. Nothing happened to them because they're not sure what they want to be. You know?
We didn't have an opening, by the way.
No?
We
just
had
casually
no
started.
One day we decided कि आज खोलते हैं. Because we were literally like, you know, like ये वो paint थोड़ा वो होना है वहाँ पे, एक ये बाकी है, एक, you know, so there was always like something or the other that we were for a full 2 weeks we were like, this is still this is still remaining, and one day we just like, screw it, tomorrow morning let's open it, and literally opened it, and I think on day one we had maybe 4 tables.
That's it.
People literally walked in to be like, what is this? You know, so it was fun. It was interesting.
It's definitely my top 10 recommendations in Delhi. I mean, I love that place. So when did you decide to hang your hat and perch and go all into, अब तो जिन का वक्त आ गया इस time तक, so you're like there, right?
नहीं, मतलब it was with Perch itself. So Vaibhav and I would, you know, at typically after closing, so about, you know, 1:30, everyone would close and leave. We'd hang around for a little bit longer and just talk about, अच्छा, what do we need to improve, क्या करना है, उसको bathroom का latch नहीं चल रहा ठीक से तो वो करना है, and you know, those kind of things. And I think in this, not the first week, the second week itself, second or third week, one of the things we said was, you know, it's funny that, you know, people are coming in and asking for gin. Because, you know, initially when I was also working at William Grant's and Hendrix was one of our brands, no one wanted anything to do with gin. We would call people for these, you know, opening parties or whatever else, you know, thrown by Hendrix, and, you know, best of the crowd, you know, best of the cocktails, etc. And people would come for this and be like, you know, do you have some whiskey or do you have some wine? Can I have that? I'd rather not have gin. You're like, yeah, but bulaya hai tumhare ko. Like, you know, try it at least. No, I'm not a gin person, you know. What do you mean you're not a gin person? So there was this perception that gin is for, you know, older people. Gin is for women. Gin is for Sunday afternoons. You know, that kind of a thing. There was all these like weird perceptions around gin. So it never really took off at that time. Whereas here now at Perch, 2015, people are coming in and saying, hey, can I get a Hendrix and tonic with 3 slices of cucumber in there?
Quick question about that. So I spoke to Shuchir from Food Talk in 2019 in the pandemic. He mentioned a name greater than. I was like, what is that? So मेरे को पता नहीं था ये क्या है. And I was still like, trying to dip my feet in the gin water, right? इस टाइम तो ग्रेटर दैन का कोई नामो निशान भी नहीं, ना नाव आया, ना हापुसा, कुछ भी नहीं आया, right? Was say Bombay Sapphire or Tanker or all these guys, were they marketing hard? Why do you think these interests had begun to shift? One thing that he told me back in the day was like, it's because these corporates, most of these corporates wanted to like have an after hours thing. And after hours, like beers would bloat you up and whiskey was too heavy. So gin, what do you think? I said randomly to nahi, like there must be some science behind why consumers suddenly wanted gin.
So why did people want gin? I'll be honest, is not because of a realization that we as consumers made overnight. We all traveled. We all saw that, hey, gin was picking up in the rest of the world because there was this huge resurgence of, cocktail bars as opposed to, like bangers, as opposed to like, disco clubs or whatever else.
Right.
Cocktail bars where, you would not any longer get, these blue fruity drinks, but you would get a serious
Sex
drink.
on the beach.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? So suddenly you could go in and order an old fashioned or a martini or a Negroni, and those kind of drinks were suddenly becoming popular around the world. And because of that, the spirit choice of the bartender was changing because it was going back to your bourbons, it was going back to your gin and moving away from vodka, because when all of these drinks, your classic cocktails were invented, gin and bourbon and those kind of things were the spirit that was readily available.
Right.
Vodka really became popular only in the 50s and after. So when the classic cocktail revolution began again, gin came back. And you had great bars around the world, your PDT kind of stuff, around the world. Where,
what's PDT?
Please don't tell. New York. It was heralded, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it was heralded as one of the first few speakeasy bars to open up.
Again.
Yeah.
So not from the Prohibition era. Like
no,
this
not from the Prohibition era. But I mean the rebirth of the Prohibition cocktails.
And now we've got several speakeasies in Indian metros as well.
Yeah, PCO opened up in 2011. No,
there's also Hoots. I recently went to Hoots.
Hoots to we did it in 2016. 17.
Oh, you were a part of it?
Yeah, it's between Perch, no?
Yeah.
Sandwiched between Perch.
2 days ago.
You're kidding, for the first time?
Bro. Like someone came to my podcast. She's like, you should go check it out. And I was very surprised. All black. I love speaking to bartenders. It's like
Sahil.
Oddly specific style was there. और उसके बाद वो Albert, Robert, like these three, Robert,
Albert and William.
Robert, Albert, William, right?
That was us.
That was you? That was crazy. And बड़ा मजा आया मेरे को because I could choose from like एक बिल्कुल pre-era की cocktail, like थोड़ी सी contemporary, and then it was really a speakeasy. Like several bars market themselves as speakeasies, but it was really one. Anyway.
But good, the fact that you didn't know about it for the last 5 years means that it's been a proper...
I've been to Perch पसंद लोग several times और वो एक random दरवाजा होता है, मतलब kitchen है किसी की, मैं नहीं जाता उसके अंदर, bathroom जाके आ जाता हूँ मैं.
So पहले it was totally hidden. Now at least it's got that window, that glass through it.
Yeah.
पहले it was just, it looked like an AC vent. So it looked, not even an AC vent, it looked like an exhaust like vent. No one would know that there's a bar behind.
But there's something special in knowing it from someone who's on the inside.
Yeah.
Because you appreciate it more. It's like, like, hey bro, can I play a vinyl record for you?
Yeah.
It's just like the curator is coming back in this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so gin is researching back and वहाँ पे सब bars वगैरह खुल रही हैं.
So वहाँ पे खुल रहा है and frankly all of us, I mean, there were a couple of bars that opened up here in India as well. Your CND in Gurgaon, Cocktails and Dreams, your PCO obviously opened up before that. Which kind of were bringing back this culture, right? The first time I had an old fashioned was at PCO. I was like, "Ye kya hai?" Like, there's a drink called old fashioned. Why are they calling it old fashioned? Who will buy it, right? But it was great, and so those with those drinks coming back, gin came back, And 2008, for example, Sipsmith launched in the UK, and Sipsmith, I mean, they were instrumental in getting some regulations changed and getting licenses for smaller distilleries also in place in the UK, and that's where the boom in the UK started with craft gin. So now, as bartenders, you don't just have to rely on Gordons and Tanquerays of the world, the Bombay Sapphires of the world. You can, you've got craft products to choose from to make your craft cocktail. So Sipsmith really kicked it off. Now, I mean, to give you an example, like 2014, the UK gin market was valued at 750 million pounds.
What?
Yeah. And
okay, I'm just absorbing
that.
Right?
Yeah, 750 million pounds. And there were maybe 100 craft brands in there, right? And people were like, listen, this is the peak. It's not going beyond that. It's not, it's, how can you fit in more gin brands into this? By 2018, that had become a 3 billion pound market with 750 odd gin distilleries there. So it's massive, the growth that's happened. And since then, it's still growing. So it's ridiculous, right? And we were late. India was late on the, to the bandwagon. Because, and I was surprised because in 2015, we started thinking about this. We're like, okay, up to matlab, one of these guys, one of the big giants is definitely going to create an Indian craft gin or whatever. And, sure, we'll be able to serve it. We were surprised that by the time we came out in 2017, no one else had launched and no one else was even thinking about a gin.
So how did you get into it? उस time पे did you really feel like यार इस इंडिया में हम निकालते हैं जिन चल जाएगी कुछ customer survey
honestly we had we didn't do a customer survey, but we had the confidence in the fact कि हो जाएगा because we were seeing it, right? We were seeing people walk in to our bar and order gin and tonic like nobody's business, right? We were seeing that our top selling cocktail was a gin cocktail. So those kind of things we saw, and then we were like, is it just a Khan market thing? Is it, maybe it's not happening anywhere else? But we spoke to a couple of our friends in the industry, and they said, हाँ यार हमारे पास भी हो रहा है. Toast and Tonic just started, I think around that time, 2016, 2017. People saying, yeah, gin is selling. Yeah. Gin tonics is selling. Gin cocktails are selling. People are asking for it. But in India, we had those generic ones to offer. Either we would have Blue Ribbon, Blue Moon, which is mass produced and generic and all that.
Or Blue you would Moon have तो हरियाणा का या यूपी का ब्रांड नहीं है.
हाँ ऐसे ही कुछ. हाँ. Only available in Delhi.
हाँ.
And wait, 250 rupees a bottle, 200
Blue Moon, no,
rupees a bottle.
1500 की ली थी.
अब हो गई है. But at that time, it used to be 200, 250 rupees a bottle. It was the Blue Ribbon answer to Delhi.
I used to think it's really premium gin. Then I had other gin because I told a gin connoisseur, "मैं Blue Ribbon क्या है? Blue Moon पीता है."
No, they yeah. So they definitely pivoted from away from that kind of classification, and they premiumized.
Right.
But that happened, I think, about 2 years ago.
So when does greater than like officially start? Does it start with you traveling to parts of the world to figure out कि भाई हम Indian gin कैसे बनाएंगे? Does it start with like trademarking the name? What was the first step you?
I think the first step we took was to understand. Well, first step actually we took was not a step we took, but we were talking to. So Weber and I, we had this discussion. And we said, listen, there is a space. It's weird. It's happening, but there is a space for gin in India all of a sudden, right? And we just don't have anything to give. So we kind of had this realization, and then I think a day or two later, we were having lunch with the investor of Perch, Kulpreet. So उससे हमारी बात हुई, and we were like, I also said it in passing that, by the way, what's happening is this gin thing is coming back, and we were just talking about it. Wouldn't it be funny if someone was to create a gin for India from India? So the response was something unexpected. He said, why don't you guys do it? Oh. But, what do we have? What experience do we have? And, okay, yeah, sure, maybe we can do it. And, but we'll get someone else to make it. And then we'll we'll market it, we'll brand it. Like, yeah, sure, whatever you need, but go out and see if it's feasible. So the first step from there was to kind of, 2-3 steps. One was go out and figure out botanical spices. Hai bhi, nahi hai. Okay, there are lots, obviously. Second was I linked up with someone I knew in the industry who was retired, ex-head of manufacturing for Pernod Ricard, Parvez Patel, and I said, listen, I want to make a gin. Can you help me figure out how to make it happen? Who to go and talk to? His response was, "Are you mad? Who wants to drink gin in India? Please don't waste my time." I was like, okay, but next day I got an email from him saying, actually, I've reconsidered. What do you have to lose? I'm thinking of it from a Pernod Ricard perspective, but what do you have to lose for it? Of course, I'll help you. Okay. So we went around meeting, people who had distilleries and, who I thought could help make the gin. And then we would just take it from them and market it and do all that. But jiske paas bhi jao, one, they didn't have the pot still or the right equipment needed to make gin. And two, even if they could fathom like, chalo hum invest kar lenge and we'll get it. The question always was, okay, how much are you looking to make? And I would say, listen, we want to start with making 7,000 cases. They're like, oh, okay, perfect. 7,000 cases a week is great. I'm like, no, 7,000 cases a year is my target. Like, why? Basically, the response was, there's the door. Why are you wasting our time?
They wanted to do a mass market play, basically.
That is all that exists in India. Craft did not exist. I mean, it's only now, recently, that craft has come into play. Otherwise, India was always mass marketed product. India was always the bottom of the pyramid.
Parle G, Nescafe,
Correct.
FMCG,
Correct.
bhar do.
Exactly. Right. So in the spirits industry, that is exactly the play that was there. It's it's about volume. And for someone like me to come in and ask for the time of day, forget investment, but ask for the time of day from someone and offer them 7,000 cases a week, 7,000 cases a year was a joke. Right? And especially because they knew that this Parvez guy is coming and, is the ex-head of manufacturing. He must have something serious for us.
But why did he not consider a mass play, Anand, starting with?
Yeah, that was not, I mean, it was already there then. Then Blue Ribbon is there already. Then what's the big deal?
Right.
Right. For us, we wanted to create something that we could use at the bar. We wanted something that we could use at home. Right. That people like you and I would, would happily get behind and drink because we care about what we put into our body. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. That's what drinking is. You are putting something physically into your body. Right. And are you not going to be careful about it? You will be. Right. So that is exactly where we said that, listen, we're going to create something that is accessible. It's not going to be like, 20,000 rupees a bottle or 10,000 rupees a bottle. We're going to create something accessible, but it's going to be just as good, if not better, than what is currently imported into the country. So that's where that's where greater than the name came about as well, that it is greater than any other gin out there in the market.
How did you acquire your first tastemakers जिन्होंने संदेश बाहर फैलाया? जैसे आज तो हर बार का एम्बेसडर होता है, हर ड्रिंक का एम्बेसडर होता है.
Yeah, honestly, at that time we didn't even have to think about it.
People just
got behind it. Yeah, people got behind it, and it was great to see. It was great to see because we were also like, trying to find our feet, and everyone around us was so supportive. And because we were also like, we were unsure of what we were doing. We were taking a step into the absolute unknown. Some of our biggest advisors at that point, who were seniors in the industry, they were saying, yeah, they would advise us. They would, half an hour sitting with us, talking. At the end of the meeting, saying, yeah, wo sab to theek hai, but why are you doing gin? Make a beer. No, dekho, bira wala wo kya kar raha hai? Make a beer. Why are you wasting your time with gin? No one drinks gin. So, we were so unsure about this, but for people to kind of really take it and make it their own, really get behind it, and everyone was a brand ambassador. Everyone, which was great. you know, and
I remember it being the first Indian gin that I heard of in my life.
yeah, it was 2017 when we launched. There was no one else. Greater Than was the first one. Then 2018 we launched Hapusha, and Rahul and Sakshi with Stranger and Sons also launched at the same time. So for a good 2-year period, it was just those three gins. And for
now
2017, it was just that one. It was just Greater Than.
Hmm.
So suddenly 2020 there were 2 or 3 others that came in, and 2022 there were like 8 others that came in,
and now there's like 200 plus.
Matlab, not yet, but we're definitely going in that direction.
Okay, so 2 questions about that. Number 1, so in the early years, अब पहले ही gin आ रही है. Now you're competing with जो पुराने giants हैं.
हाँ.
है ना, अपने Sapphire वगैरह हो गए और सारे हो गए. Market share कैसे बढ़ाना शुरू करा? Like at this point, what are you thinking about? More about taste, or were you thinking about like यार business भी देखना है हमें, थोड़ा हमें aggressively market भी capture करनी है?
नहीं, we were thinking of how to stay afloat. We were not thinking about market share capturing. We were thinking of just registering, you know, just having the money to register in each state. Right now, it's not like agarbatti. I can't make and sell. I have to register in each state that I have to sell in. The label for each state has to be different. I have to pay a licensing fee every year. So, for example, a state like Maharashtra, I have to pay 7 lakh rupees every year for the company. For a state like Delhi, I have to pay 12 lakh rupees per brand every year. So having that money to pay those kind of expenses and, you know, and still stay afloat was our number one priority, was to survive.
And our gin licenses, say at that time, because उस time पे तो कोई और कर नहीं रहा होगा, were they more expensive than say whiskey licenses or beer licenses?
No. Thank God they were not.
नहीं.
So Delhi, for example, the whiskey license would have been 25 lakhs.
Okay.
Rum was 25 lakhs. I think gin and vodka was 12 lakhs, which is still the case. So, yeah, I mean, you know, honestly, those were the things those were the battles we were fighting.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the market share thing came as a surprise to us, wherein I think 2020 or 2021, we, for the first time, we overtook Bombay Sapphire. So up till then, the largest selling premium gin in the country was Bombay Sapphire. 2021, we overtook Bombay Sapphire. And just about. And 2022, we went, you know, far beyond. So that's been interesting, where, you know, we were able to say that, listen, you know, you kind of, that's been an interesting mark to hit. That's been an interesting milestone to hit. But again, now, you know, it's great to kind of see the new brands coming in, because that's the only way we can grow. Everyone has to grow together. There's not one brand that can grow in isolation.
Right.
The gin category as a whole has to grow for people to say, hey, have you tried that? Have you tried this? You know, and the interest in the category as a whole needs to explode for each and every single brand and each and every single distillery to really benefit from it. Which is why it's, you know, I'm happy that that most people who are coming in are doing a good job with their branding, with the quality, with the liquid, you know. So yeah, I think it's a good sign.
And market share की तो एक बात थी. So I was at Hoots. I was like, अरे ये Greater Than रखी हुई है यहाँ पे क्या scene है? I was asking कि ये bottle कहाँ से आती है? I always like, I'm interested in how things are shelved.
Sure.
कि सबसे सामने क्या है, सबसे ऊपर क्या है? Same like supermarket logic, right?
Sure.
So how much of this burgeoning growth of Greater Than was also you figuring out how can I tie up with individual bars and have my bottle placed? How important was that?
Again, it wasn't as systematic as it should have been. So while Weber, when I first you know, came up with the seed of the idea, Aparajita, who's my wife and partner, came in at that stage, and 3 of us, so between me, Weber, and Aparajita, we really started thinking about how to grow this, how to make it something real, you know, how to bring it out into market. Beyond that, did we have a strategy for, you know, इस बार के पास जाएंगे उसको इतना,
क्योंकि दिखनी शुरू हो गई. लाइक मैं अगर वो दिखाऊं ना, जैसे एक ईयर के बाद जब मैं इंडिया वापस आया बाहर से भी, द एवरी सिंगल ईयर एंड देन आफ्टर दैट एवरी सिंगल मंथ, exponentially ऐसी greater than more.
But yeah, wait. So it was because of that support that I'm talking about. That support came not just from consumers, but that support came from the industry as well, where bartenders got behind it. Even some of them would say, "Yeah, listen, I get paid by Diageo or Bacardi or Pernod Ricard to make sure that their brands are selling, and and why are they paying? Is because they're fighting each other, right? There's a bigger game going on there. But listen, I'll put greater than in there because I want to support you guys. I want to support the local, gin space and everything. So don't worry, I have a contract with them, but I will still pour greater than. And the number of people who started doing that was great, and that's really how it happened. It was organic. We did not pay any of these guys to be like, yeah, please promote kar dena. None of them, every single one of them, and that speaks volumes for the industry as a whole, where they had the, they had the thought about, hey, we need to support our own, right? We need to support what's happening, and it's because of that this kind of steep growth, that this explosion in the number of brands has happened.
And how instrumental were से जो अपने ये टॉनिक वाले ब्रांड्स थे, क्योंकि इनके साथ भी तो दोस्ती यारी चली होगी बहुत ज़्यादा, because सबसे बेसिक ड्रिंक क्या होती है, जिन एंड टॉनिक.
You spoke to Anish, right?
Yeah.
So when I was still with Remy, we didn't. That was the first time I met Anish, and we did a event together at his house. And a couple of people were there. Saransh was there, and we basically did like a cognac and street food pairing, or a Bombay food pairing, or whatever. So and all that. We were, again, really nice evening and everything, and we had a lot of fun. Towards the end of the evening, we were sitting together, and at that point also, I had this somewhere in the back of my mind. I said, listen, at some point, it'll be great if I'm thinking of starting a gin brand. He's like, you know what? When you do that, I'm going to start a tonic brand, और साथ में co-brand करेंगे, and ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. Yeah, this is like loose talk, absolute loose talk. ऐसे बैठे बात कर रहे हैं, and then what? 3 years later, 4 years later, after that, we're actually
both have brands.
Actually done that. It's nuts how that's happened. But yeah, no, I think everyone's friends with everyone. Yeah. Of course, there is a competitive angle, and that's great.
But the tonic certainly help, right? Because it's always better when a gin and a tonic come together.
100%. Right? I think.
But the tonics are also like they can pair with anyone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've been able to grow with them. They've been able to grow with us. So it's it's a mutual,
friends with
collaboration. Benefits. Yeah, friends with benefits in that.
You want to say family? I want to say friends with benefits.
No. I mean, it's both. It's a little bit of both, and. Someone. I mean, again, there's stories with each and every one of them, but there's another one. There's a tonic brand called Bengal Bay, where Rishabh, who's the guy behind it, he is the younger brother of one of my friends from school, and she had said, listen, Rishabh aa raha hai, he's coming back from college, and or from the States, and do you think you can give him a job? And I was looking for someone in Delhi to handle sales. So I was like, yeah, sure. Spoke to him, really bright kid. At the end of it, I figured out, listen, I can't afford you. I'm looking for someone like, yes, of course, someone who can build relationships and everything, but I can't afford to pay you. But great, good talk. And, inversely, what he took away from our entire conversation was, we were talking about how there is just no gin. And also the fact that there is no gin, there is no Indian tonic. And that's what he took away from it. And next call I get from him is saying, listen, really enjoyed that call the other day, the talk the other day. I want to get you to taste something, So it had been about a month or 2 months since I spoke to him. I said, हाँ बता. So he came and, perch pe aaya, and he came with his Mr. Butler bottle and said, listen, I want to get you to taste a tonic that I've been working on now. I said, great. So that's how that started. So, everyone's kind of got these intermingling stories, between the gin and the tonic world and everything.
And it's fairly nascent, right? It's not like you guys have been in this for 10 years. मतलब पुराने जैसे हो जाते हैं ना, पुराने alcohol के धुरंधर होते हैं जो. It's just very nascent. I'm just wondering, what are the economics of gin now? Like, what are some, is this a profitable business to make gin in India as opposed to, say, making whiskey or beer for that matter?
It can be, yeah, and it is. If you just look at the baseline operations of it, yeah, of course. I think there's definitely a mark that you need to hit, which becomes your tipping point, where after a certain amount of advertising, you get to a base level where you don't have to advertise. The marginal amount that you will advertise per bottle does not keep just steady. So
Right.
does not keep going up. So at a certain point, there's only so much you can spend on advertising and promotions and those kind of things, and hope that scale sets in. So is it possible? Yes, because unlike with beer, like for example, what Bira started doing initially, they were burning money on every single bottle
Are
they
they still
sold.
doing that?
No, not now. But
Okay.
when they were importing, beer from Netherlands or Belgium or wherever, um, they were doing it almost as a test market. So they were bringing that beer in, they were selling it at a subsidized cost here to be able to build the brand and to kind of have that to prove that, listen, this is possible, this is great, and then move manufacturing to India.
Right.
Right. So that transition itself took time. That was a little bit, a little bit of turbulence involved there. But yeah, they were able to create a fantastic brand, and way ahead of the game, I guess, way ahead of everyone else.
मैं तो बहुत खुश हूँ because जब हम छोटे थे and
हाँ,
I would see my dad drink, बहुत कम options होते थे.
हाँ.
Now, as a person who's of legal age, you go outside. आप इतने it's like a supermarket of alcohol. We never had that, right? जब when you were in the States, you noticed
Yeah.
like alcohol supermarket होती थी.
हाँ,
हमारे
correct.
यहाँ पे ठेके पे वो जो brands आते थे बड़े कम आते थे. Now, if you've seen like, for example, like so many premium thekewalas in Gurgaon and Delhi have come up.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they're serving, you would not see anywhere else. And Goa is like, to uska paradise hai.
Goa also is funny, yeah, because when we started off in Goa, it was not what it is now. Goa was, we went and met the distributor that we have, and he was like, yeah, what, you made a gin? Okay, all right, that's an interesting choice. Sure, I'll take you guys on because of the reference you've got, but can I tell you, you're not going to get more than 20-25 cases a month, and in a good month, right? Because he said, listen, I've been in this business for like 25 years. Yeah, no one drinks gin.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking of? And 25 cases a month is what he had prepped us for. And we said, yeah, theek hai. Even for us, we were thinking, yeah, theek hai. Mainly we'll sell in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and all that. But instead, what happened was by the second or third month, he was already doing 150 cases a month.
That's crazy.
So he was also surprised. He's like, ja raha hai, bik raha hai. People are asking for it. And he would keep ordering. And the problem was he had prepped us for 25 cases a month.
So you were not ready.
So we had bottles, we had labels for that. So मैं तो 6 महीने के लिए order कर रखे थे. And within the first, month and a half, that was done. So I was like, yeah, now what? So there was, and then we would get calls saying, you aren't supplying. I was like, yeah, but what do you mean you aren't supplying? Yeah, I can't supply. I don't have the bottles. So, and to a point where now an average month in Goa is 800,000 cases a month.
What?
Yeah. So as opposed
150 cases a month say 800,000 cases a month.
Correct.
In Goa alone, the state of Goa.
In Goa alone, yeah.
Damn, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're constantly like, and every time we meet, we keep talking about that. What were we thinking? 25 cases a month. And we were also happy. ठीक है 25 केस करोगे.
So I can't even assume कि Mumbai के number होंगे as a city of Mumbai.
नहीं. Goa
is the king.
Goa is king. I mean, Maharashtra.
एक केस के अंदर कितनी बॉटल होती है?
12 बॉटल.
12. Bro.
So people really drink gin, huh? But again, so that's what I mean about the fact that Goa has changed a lot. Because Goa was always, Goa जा रहे हो, shack जाओगे, beer पियोगे, mojito पियोगे at Mac.
घर आ जाओगे.
घर आ जाओगे. The number of bars that have come up that have taken drinks seriously, right? Maybe it started from Gunpowder. Back in the day, would do really good cocktails.
Several Villa 259.
Every. I mean, you go to Izumi as well. You go to Black Market. You do. any number of places. Yeah, Miguel's. You know, there's so many places. There's Veranda, which has
I
a
love
place.
Veranda.
Yeah, gin joint, which
Probably
is
the
just.
only बहुत कम जगह है जहाँ पे अच्छी mezcal मिलती है. It's one of those places.
Well, there you go. But they have like a dedicated gin space,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, the gin room upstairs.
The gin joint or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it's
yeah.
called. So that culture did not exist before. You know, and people would not come to now. I mean, since we launched, people would come to Goa, buy 5 bottles of gin, take it back home to wherever they live, and that was so much of our business was coming from that. Was tourists coming in, buying, and going away.
So what does the present day look like for you in terms of operations? जैसे अब तो बन गया है ब्रांड, अब तो थोड़ा बढ़िया सीन
मतलब
है.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि
मतलब
अब तो बन गया, चलो अब चिल
मैं तो
करते
थोड़ा
हैं.
ऐसा स्टाइल मारने के लिए कह रहा हूँ,
हाँ, sure.
लेकिन the initial phases, you know, setting it up in a way are done. Now it's expanding. I mean, I'm assuming that's the strategy. I don't know.
I think we're in the constant. We're constantly trying to improve, right? कुछ ना कुछ लगे रहते हैं हम लोग. You know, label quality improve करना, bottle quality improve करना. You know, botanicals, where do we get them from, etc. Working on limited editions. For specifically for greater than every year, we've been coming out with one limited edition. How do you go out and keep reinventing the wheel from a brand perspective? You know, keep everyone interested. So it's, in a sense, there's more pressure now than there was before, because pehle to it was like, you know, whatever we did, people were like, great, well
Upstarts,
done,
right?
well done.
Up to you're like, you have a certain market size and industry में लोगों के सामने नाम है, so there's more emphasis on doing it right.
Yeah, and I think also we sense a sense of responsibility. There's definitely a sense of responsibility to kind of lead the way, to kind of make sure we're saying the right things, make sure we're not, you know, overstepping our bounds, but still staying true to the core ethos of the brand, for greater than, remaining cheeky, remaining you know, fun, and not losing that angle of fun, which is so easy to do, right? To just get sucked into the business of thing, into the operations of
Suits.
it. Correct, right? And I think for us, I think that's a really good barometer to have, is, are we having fun? You know, doing what we're doing, and I think so far, at least the answer is, yeah, we're having a lot of fun, right? I mean, our home is the office, you know, so everyone comes home, and there's typically, if you walk into our home, there's 6-7 of us kind of sitting around, supposedly working, having meetings, and, you know, getting on calls and ideating and those kind of things. So it's a really great environment, and I keep saying this, you know, both Aparajita and I, we keep talking about this, that listen, even on days that we complain about, you know, too much pressure, too much this, too much that, we're going to look back at this 20 years from now or 30 years from now and say, you know, damn, those days were great. You know, this, like, you definitely get that sense of, you know, this will be what nostalgia will be later on.
Yeah, it is going to be the future of, मतलब हम फ्यूचर में जाएंगे, देखिए कि हाँ यार, ग्रेटर दैन स्टैंडर्ड है, मतलब, you know, जैसे अब तो धीरे धीरे आंखों के सामने आता है. I'm gonna call you Gin King, bro.
Please don't. It's too pompous, man. Too pompous for me. Thanks.
No, but yeah, honestly, I had a blast talking to you today. It's been insane. Like I said, I really enjoy. I feel like मेरी personality में एक नया part आ गया that could experiment with alcohol in a bougie, status signaling way, and then you actually enjoy it. You know, once the outline of, hey, look at me, I'm drinking gin and cocktails, that goes away, and you really start seeing the culture for what it is.
Sure.
You realize that this is a fun thing to do that people across the world do, and because we were always bereft of it, हमारे को मौका नहीं मिला था. अब मिल गया है, तो there are opportunities not only in employment but also taste, right? So many other things, like music, for example, has revived in a way where cocktail bars have the best music now, right? There's other taste-making industries coming around because there is better alcohol in the country, and you know, you're one of the guys spearheading it. So thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot for having me. This has been great. I somehow didn't even feel like you know, we talked about it, right? It was great. It was just a really nice chat. And kahan Babson, kahan, you know, gin and everything.
I generally wanted to know this, because it's one thing to see a bottle and another thing to, like, you know, like, just see the. प्लस यार मैं पर्च बहुत ज्यादा जाता हूँ, फिर मैं ऑल गुड.
So like पर्च का क्या सीन है?
हाँ, और PCO भी, it's just like when all desperate attempts to have that one last party ends, you know that PCO closes.
PCO खुला होगा, PCO खुला होगा, correct.
Otherwise वो फिर वो CBA clubs हैं जो 4-5 बजे stag entry या फिर couple entry 6,000, like you don't want that.
But PCO also changed so much. Yeah, I mean, I remember when again the first time I was introduced to it was I think 2011 itself, and we were just like, "What is this?" You know,
it's
like,
insane. It's changed, but I'm always surprised how वहाँ पे 7 दिन लोग होते हैं.
हाँ, correct.
It's
great.
never not packed.
It's great.
So
These guys are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah. So where can people follow you, bro?
If they really want to, on Instagram at Anand in a glass. Otherwise, obviously the brands at Greater Than Gin and at Hapusha Gin.
Awesome. Yeah. बहुत अच्छा लगा बात करके यार.
Likewise, yeah. बहुत सही.
Thank you. This was Dostcast with Anand Virmani from Greater Than Hapusha Nao Spirits. We'll see you all next Tuesday or Friday whenever the next episode comes out. Take care. Bye bye. Sayonara.